The Zontarans had always lived in peace. Their planet, Zontara, was a place of beautiful green fields, blue skies, and advanced technology. They were a kind and gentle species who believed in cooperation and understanding. For hundreds of years, they had no enemies. But that all changed when the Ravagers appeared. The Ravagers were a cruel and powerful race. They moved from planet to planet, destroying everything in their way. They had no mercy, only taking and conquering. No one had ever been able to stop them. When the Ravagers set their sights on Zontara, the Zontarans knew they couldn't fight back. Their weapons were no match for the brutal power of the Ravagers. As their cities started to fall and their people fled in fear, the Zontaran leaders gathered in their main council chamber. The air was thick with worry. The council members, all dressed in long robes of white and blue, sat around a large round table. At the center was Chancellor Evron, the leader of the Zontarans. His face, usually calm and wise, was now full of concern. "We must send out a call for help," Chancellor Evron said, his voice heavy. "We cannot stop the Ravagers alone. We need allies." "But who will help us?" one of the council members asked. "The Galactic Council has already said they won't intervene. They fear the Ravagers just as much as we do." Chancellor Evron nodded. "That is true. But we must still try. We will send a message to every race in the galaxy. Surely someone will come to our aid." The council agreed, and soon a desperate message was sent out across the stars. It was a simple plea. "Our planet is under attack by the Ravagers. We are a peaceful race and cannot defend ourselves. Please help us." Days passed and no response came. The Zontarans began to lose hope. Each day, the Ravagers got closer to completely taking over Zontara. Buildings were destroyed and thousands of Zontarans were forced to flee underground to escape the destruction. The once beautiful planet was turning into a war zone. One day, just as the council was ready to give up, a small communication signal was received. Chancellor Evron rushed to the council chamber, his heart racing. A message had finally come through. "Who is it?" one of the council members asked, his voice full of both hope and fear. The Zontaran communication officer, a young man with wide eyes, looked up from his screen. "It's from Earth. The humans." The room fell silent. Everyone knew about humans. They were known throughout the galaxy as a dangerous and violent species. Stories about their wars and conflicts were famous, even in Zontara. Some called them killers. Others said they were impossible to understand. Chancellor Evron took a deep breath. "What does the message say?" The officer read aloud. "We have received your call for help. A human strike team is on its way. We will defend your planet. Stand by for further instructions." The council members looked at each other, unsure of what to feel. Help was on the way, but from humans. The very thought made them nervous. Were these humans really coming to help, or did they have their own reasons? Could they trust the killer humans? "We have no choice," Chancellor Evron finally said. "We must trust them. We asked for help, and they have answered." As the days passed and the human ship drew closer to Zontara, the tension grew. The Zontarans prepared for what would come next. Would the humans save them? Or would the Ravagers finally destroy everything? The Zontarans didn't know, but one thing was clear. Their fate now rested in the hands of the very species they had feared for so long, the humans. The skies above Zontara were dark and filled with the smoke of battle. The once peaceful planet was barely holding on. The Ravagers had already destroyed half the cities, and the Zontarans were hiding in underground shelters, waiting for what felt like the inevitable end. Chancellor Evron stood with his council, looking up at the sky. Their message had been answered, but the Zontarans were still uneasy. The humans were coming, but the stories about them were frightening. They were known as fierce warriors. Some even said they were killers. The Zontarans didn't know if they could trust these humans. But there was no time to question it now. The humans were their last hope. Suddenly, the sky lit up as a massive ship appeared, breaking through the atmosphere. It was sleek and metallic, unlike anything the Zontarans had ever seen. The ship hovered for a moment before slowly descending. As it landed, a deep rumble shook the ground. "That's them," Chancellor Evron said, his voice low. "The humans." A group of Zontaran soldiers stood ready, their hands trembling as they gripped their weapons. They had no idea what kind of beings would step out of that ship. The stories of human brutality ran through their minds. They had all heard about human wars and their unmatched strength in battle. But no one had ever seen a human in person. Today that would change. The ship's door opened, and a ramp extended to the ground. Out stepped a team of humans, all dressed in heavy armor, their faces hidden behind helmets. They moved in perfect formation, their steps strong and confident. At the front was their leader, Captain Reeves. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his armor gleaming under the dim light. The Zontarans couldn't see his face, but they could feel the power and authority he carried. For a moment, no one spoke. The humans stood still, scanning the area, while the Zontarans watched, frozen in place. Then, Captain Reeves removed his helmet, revealing a human face. He had sharp, focused eyes and a serious expression. He didn't look like a monster, but there was a certain intensity about him that made the Zontarans uneasy. Chancellor Evron stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly. "I am Chancellor Evron, leader of the Zontaran people. We are grateful that you have come to help us." Captain Reeves nodded. "We received your message. We're here to protect your planet. My team will handle the Ravagers." The Zontaran soldiers glanced at each other, surprised by the calm tone in Reeves's voice. He spoke with confidence, not the aggression they had expected. "But the Ravagers are powerful," one of the Zontaran soldiers blurted out. "We've tried everything to stop them." Captain Reeves looked at the soldier with a small, reassuring smile. "We've dealt with worse. Trust me, we've got this." The humans wasted no time. They began unloading advanced weapons from their ship, setting up a defense perimeter around the landing site. The Zontarans watched in awe as the humans moved with precision and speed, preparing for battle in a way that seemed almost effortless. "They're not like what we thought," one of the Zontaran council members whispered to Chancellor Evron. "They don't seem like killers at all." Chancellor Evron nodded slowly. "No, they don't." As the humans continued their preparations, Captain Reeves approached Chancellor Evron again. "We'll need a full layout of the Ravager forces, numbers, positions, and any weaknesses you've noticed." Evron was taken aback by how direct and focused Reeves was. There was no hint of fear in his voice, only determination. "We have some information, but we didn't think anyone could stop them," Evron admitted. Reeves placed a hand on Evron's shoulder. "We've been through worse. We're here to help. Trust us." For the first time in weeks, Evron felt a small spark of hope. Maybe the humans weren't the killers the galaxy feared. Maybe, just maybe, they were the protectors Zontara desperately needed. As the sun set over the damaged planet, the humans prepared for battle. The Zontarans stood back, watching with growing belief that these strange, powerful beings might actually save them. The Ravagers were still out there, but the Zontarans had something they hadn't had in a long time: hope. And that hope now rested in the hands of the humans. The day had finally come. The Ravagers, ruthless and brutal, were preparing for their final assault on Zontara. Smoke rose from the cities they had already destroyed, and the Zontarans were hiding underground, terrified of what would come next. But this time they were not alone. The humans were here and they were ready. Captain Reeves stood with his team of soldiers on a hill overlooking the battlefield. His face was calm, his eyes sharp as he studied the incoming enemy forces. The Ravagers were approaching fast, their massive ships darkening the sky, and their ground troops were marching forward with terrifying speed. "Prepare for battle," Reeves ordered, his voice steady. His soldiers responded immediately, positioning themselves with their advanced weapons, ready to face the enemy head-on. The Zontarans watched from a distance, still unsure if the humans could truly stop the Ravagers. They had heard stories of human strength, but now they would see it for themselves. The ground shook as the Ravagers came closer. Their war cries echoed through the air, sending chills down the spines of the Zontarans. But the humans didn't flinch. They remained focused, their weapons aimed, their minds sharp. Captain Reeves signaled to his team. "Wait for my command," he said calmly. The Ravagers charged, their massive alien forms towering over the battlefield. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight, and their weapons crackled with energy. It looked like nothing could stop them. But the humans stood firm, waiting. Then, when the Ravagers were within range, Reeves gave the order. "Fire!" A barrage of laser fire erupted from the humans' weapons, lighting up the battlefield. The blasts hit the front line of the Ravagers, taking many of them down instantly. The Ravagers stumbled, surprised by the power of the human attack. They had not expected this kind of resistance. But the Ravagers were fierce and relentless. They quickly regrouped and launched their own attack. Energy blasts rained down on the humans, shaking the ground and sending debris flying. But the humans were ready. They moved with precision, dodging the attacks and firing back with deadly accuracy. Captain Reeves led the charge, his movements swift and controlled. He wasn't just giving orders, he was fighting alongside his team. Every shot he fired hit its target, and every move he made was calculated to protect his soldiers and push back the enemy. The battle raged on, explosions and laser fire lighting up the sky. The Ravagers were strong, but the humans fought with a skill and determination that the Zontarans had never seen before. The humans worked together as a perfect unit, covering each other's backs and moving in sync like a well-oiled machine. The Zontarans watched in awe. They had always believed that humans were killers, but what they were seeing now was something entirely different. The humans weren't fighting out of cruelty or rage. They were fighting with purpose. They were protecting Zontara with everything they had. The Ravagers, however, were not done. Their largest ship, a massive black warship, hovered above the battlefield, preparing to launch a devastating attack. Captain Reeves saw it coming and knew they had only seconds to act. "Target the ship!" Reeves yelled into his communicator. The human soldiers quickly adjusted their aim and unleashed a powerful volley of energy blasts at the Ravager warship. The ship's shields flickered as the blasts hit, but it wasn't enough to take it down. "We need more firepower!" one of the human soldiers shouted. Reeves gritted his teeth. "Bring out the heavy artillery." A massive cannon was rolled into position by the humans, its barrel glowing with energy. Reeves aimed it at the warship, waiting for the right moment. The Ravagers were getting ready to fire, and time was running out. "Now!" Reeves shouted. The cannon fired a massive beam of energy, striking the Ravager warship with a thunderous explosion. The ship's shields shattered, and with one final blast, the warship exploded in a fiery blaze, crashing to the ground in pieces. The remaining Ravagers, seeing their greatest weapon destroyed, began to retreat. They had never faced a force like this before. The humans had not only fought them, they had beaten them. As the Ravagers fled, the battlefield grew quiet. The humans stood victorious, their weapons still smoking from the fight. Captain Reeves looked over the battlefield, his face calm but determined. The Zontarans, watching from their shelters, couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. The humans had done it. They had defeated the Ravagers, something no one else in the galaxy had ever been able to do. The battle was over, but the humans knew it wasn't the end. The Ravagers would likely return, but for now, Zontara was safe. And it was all thanks to the killer humans, who had proven themselves to be more than just warriors. They were heroes. The battle was over, but the humans knew it was only a matter of time before the Ravagers struck back. Captain Reeves stood on the command deck of the human warship, scanning the skies. He had expected the Ravagers to regroup and return, and now it seemed they were preparing to do just that. "We don't have much time," Reeves said to his second-in-command, Sergeant Carter. "They'll be back and they'll come with more force." Sergeant Carter nodded grimly. "We pushed them back, but they'll want revenge. They always do." The Zontarans, still recovering from the recent battle, were unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their atmosphere. They believed they were safe for now, but Reeves knew better. The Ravagers were not the kind to accept defeat easily. They would return, and when they did, they would be more brutal than before. "They'll hit us harder this time," Reeves muttered. "We need to prepare." As Reeves began strategizing with his team, far above the planet, in the darkness of space, the Ravagers were regrouping. Their leader, Commander Crane, a fearsome alien with a reputation for never showing mercy, was furious. He had never suffered such a humiliating defeat, and now he sought only one thing: revenge. "They think they've won?" Crane snarled, pacing back and forth on the bridge of his ship. "Humans. They will pay for this!" Crane's soldiers were already preparing for the next attack. The Ravagers were known for their brutal tactics, and this time they planned to unleash their full fury on Zontara, and the humans protecting it. Crane wanted to make sure that everyone would suffer for standing against them. "Prepare the assault ships," Crane ordered, his eyes burning with rage. "We will crush them, and I want every last human dead." Meanwhile, on Zontara, Captain Reeves was putting his plan into action. The humans worked tirelessly, fortifying their defenses and preparing for the Ravagers' inevitable return. They had already shown their strength in the previous battle, but now they had to be even more careful. This time, the Ravagers would be more desperate, and desperation made them dangerous. "The Ravagers won't stop until they've destroyed everything," Reeves said, addressing his team. "We can't let that happen. We hold this ground no matter what." As night fell over Zontara, the atmosphere grew tense. The Zontarans were still trying to repair their cities, unaware of the new threat brewing in space. But the humans were ready. They had set up defensive positions around key locations, using advanced weaponry to ensure they were prepared for anything. Then it happened. The sky suddenly lit up with the arrival of the Ravager fleet. Dozens of ships descended from the dark clouds, their engines roaring as they prepared to land. The Zontarans, hearing the noise, looked up in terror. It was happening again. "The Ravagers were back. They've come for revenge," Reeves said, watching the enemy ships through his binoculars. "All units, get ready." The ground shook as the Ravager ships landed, and the battle began almost immediately. The Ravagers wasted no time, firing energy blasts from their ships and sending ground troops to storm the human positions. This time, their attack was more ferocious, more violent. They didn't care about taking prisoners or holding back. They wanted to destroy everything in their path. The humans fired back, their advanced weapons lighting up the battlefield once again. But the Ravagers were more prepared this time. They had brought bigger ships, stronger soldiers, and deadlier weapons. The humans fought bravely, but the sheer number of Ravagers made the battle seem almost impossible to win. Captain Reeves, positioned at the front lines, barked orders as explosions rocked the ground. "Hold your positions! Don't let them break through!" But the Ravagers were relentless. Commander Crane, watching from his ship, smiled cruelly as he saw his forces gaining ground. The humans were putting up a strong fight, but Crane was determined to make them suffer. He ordered his ships to bombard the human defenses with heavy fire, trying to break their lines. Reeves gritted his teeth as the enemy fire intensified. "We need more firepower," he yelled to his team. Sergeant Carter rushed to Reeves's side. "We're holding them off for now, but it's getting tougher." Reeves nodded. "We can't let them win. If they break through here, Zontara is finished." The battle raged on, with both sides taking heavy losses. The Ravagers fought with a viciousness that seemed unstoppable. They were out for blood, and they wouldn't stop until the humans were completely wiped out. As the night wore on, the humans held their ground, but just barely. The Ravagers were pushing harder and harder, and it was clear that this battle would not end easily. Commander Crane, watching from above, prepared for his final move. An all-out assault meant to crush the humans once and for all. The Ravagers were closing in, and the fate of Zontara and humanity hung in the balance. The battle continued to rage on Zontara, and the situation grew more desperate with each passing moment. Captain Reeves stood at the front lines, his heart pounding in his chest. The Ravagers were relentless, pushing the humans back inch by inch. Explosions echoed in the air, and the ground shook beneath their feet. "Hold the line!" Reeves shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "We can't let them through." The humans fought bravely, but the odds were stacked against them. Ravager soldiers flooded the battlefield, their faces twisted with anger and hatred. The humans, despite their courage and training, were starting to feel the weight of exhaustion. Reeves could see his soldiers struggling, but they refused to give up. Suddenly, a loud roar filled the air. A massive Ravager warship hovered above, its cannons charging up for a devastating blast. Reeves's heart sank as he realized what was about to happen. "Get down!" he yelled, diving behind cover as the ship unleashed its powerful attack. A brilliant beam of energy shot down from the ship, striking the ground with a blinding flash. Smoke and debris filled the air, and when it cleared, a huge crater had formed where their defenses once stood. "Fall back! Regroup!" Reeves ordered, but it was becoming harder to rally his troops. The Ravagers were breaking through, and panic began to set in. Just then, a voice crackled over the communicator. It was Sergeant Carter. "Captain, we've received reinforcements." "Reinforcements?" Reeves echoed, his eyes wide with hope. "More human ships are coming from the fleet above," Carter replied. "They're here to help us!" Reeves felt a rush of adrenaline. "Let's show these Ravagers what we can do. Hold your positions." As if answering his call, several human ships burst through the clouds, their cannons firing volleys of energy blasts at the Ravager forces. The sky lit up with explosions as the reinforcements joined the fight. The humans quickly began pushing back the Ravagers, who were caught off guard by the sudden change in the tide. With renewed energy, Reeves rallied his troops. "We're not done yet! Charge!" The humans surged forward, their weapons blazing. The Ravagers, now outnumbered, struggled to maintain their ground. The battlefield erupted into chaos as humans and Ravagers clashed in fierce combat. Reeves fought alongside his soldiers, his determination unmatched. "Keep pushing!" he shouted, firing at a group of advancing Ravagers. "We can do this!" As they fought, the Zontarans watched from their shelters, their hearts pounding. They had witnessed the bravery of the humans, and now they saw them fighting with all their might. Hope began to stir among the Zontarans, and they realized that perhaps they could win this battle. Suddenly, Commander Crane's voice boomed over the battlefield, filled with rage. "Retreat! We will not be defeated by these weaklings!" But it was too late. The human reinforcements had already made their mark. The humans pressed forward, cutting down the Ravagers one by one. The tide of battle had turned in their favor. As Crane watched his forces crumble, fury filled him. He activated his warship's cannons, aiming them at the humans. "I will destroy them all!" he screamed, preparing to unleash a devastating blast. But Captain Reeves was ready. He had seen Crane's ship targeting them and quickly gathered his best soldiers. "Follow me!" he shouted, racing toward the warship. "We'll take it down!" They sprinted across the battlefield, dodging blasts and debris, until they reached the base of the Ravager ship. The humans worked together, using their explosives to breach the ship's defenses. With a powerful explosion, they forced their way inside, and the fight continued in the narrow corridors of the Ravager ship. The humans fought fiercely, determined to end the threat once and for all. Finally, Reeves and his team reached the control room. Crane was waiting for them, his eyes filled with fury. The two leaders faced off, and the air crackled with tension. "You think you can defeat me?" Crane snarled. Reeves stood tall, his weapon aimed directly at the Ravager commander. "This ends now. You've terrorized this planet long enough." The two clashed in a fierce battle, the sounds of their fight echoing through the ship. Reeves fought with everything he had, fueled by the desire to protect Zontara and his fellow humans. In a final moment of strength, he disarmed Crane and brought him to the ground. "It's over!" Reeves shouted, his voice steady. With Crane captured, the remaining Ravager forces began to retreat, their spirit broken. The humans emerged victorious, and the battlefield erupted in cheers. The Zontarans joined in, their hearts full of gratitude and admiration for their human allies. The battle for Zontara was won, thanks to the bravery and strength of the humans. Captain Reeves stood tall, looking over the field as the sun began to rise, signaling a new day. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, proving that together they could overcome any challenge. Zontara was safe once more, and the humans had truly saved the day.